For more than 5 decades, ACEM's been focused on advancing professionalism and affecting change because that matters to you as a professional, a consulting engineer. Regulations, status, influence and command. The Association of Consulting Engineers Malaysia, ACEM, has looked out for you through many milestones passed by our nation. Our quest started way back in 1963. Now we're headquartered in Kuala Lumpur with branch offices in Kuching and Kota Kinabalu. Come join us and be counted. Our goal is about empowering, looking into your interests, rights and privileges, availing a platform for your voice to be heard with the government, public bodies and industry associations, as well as extend cooperation with related bodies and stakeholders. When it comes to being a member of the Association of Consulting Engineers Malaysia, ACEM, it's about being involved and keeping abreast with our profession. From a membership spanning sole proprietors and partners of engineering consulting practices, ACEM is the reference point and influencing factor, driving matters that affect consulting engineers in our country. With 900 individual members and 470 member firms representing in excess of 20,000 employees, ACEM has the clout to become a formidable partner to be aligned with. We're heard in over 90 committees and work groups, and that includes ministries and local governments, government agencies, and related associations. ACEM's reach also ensures a voice in regional and international matters as well. Advancement of the consulting engineering profession is the essence of ACEM's existence. Working through standing committees and the Secretariat, ACEM continually provides a platform and paves the way, affecting and courting change. Our track record spans more than 50 years as a sole catalyst, augmenting the role of the consultant engineer. There have been many. The delivery of the Manual Perolehan Perkhidmatan Perunding 2011, which instruments the upward adjustment of government-approved salary scale. It was us. QBS as a government procurement policy. That was us too. Ad valorem stamp duty on construction agreements and BEM ruling on stamp duty. ACEM's insignia was clearly there too. And what about the future? Our relevance was also captured in the Green Building Index, GBI, for Malaysia. We believe in addressing what is needed. At ACEM, we believe that the consulting engineering profession grows in stride with ongoing global developments. We lead the torch in facing hurdles and charting the way towards a more efficient and effective profession. Because with ACEM, not one of our professionals gets left behind. Like a flame that never dies, ACEM is hard at work, overseeing and monitoring the landscape. Quite often, we're prompted to anticipate concerns and initiate engagement, like the implementation of the REA 2015, which allows liberalization of the industry, push for complete liberalization of consulting practice, urge for regulations requiring local participation in FDIs, promoting green initiatives in the built environment for waste reduction, resource conservation, sustainability of ecosystem, and improvement of quality of human life. Safeguarding fair and equitable treatment to all stakeholders involved in the construction industry, and encouraging technology adoption for the efficiency, productivity, and advancement of the construction industry. ACEM, for the betterment of future generations. Your participation is our advancement.
Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. I am Nurin Jazlina, the moderator for today's webinar. Welcome you to our webinar with the theme of PEM's Professional Competency Examination. For today's webinar, we have our honorable speaker, IR Muhammad Kamal Haziq, who will share with us about the topic of PCE for Mechanical PE. During the session, participants is required to mute the microphone and participants can ask questions in the chat box. Before we start our webinar, I would like to introduce a little bit about our speaker, IR Muhammad Kamal Haziq. He is a registered professional engineer with practicing certificate, PEPCIR in mechanical, and a registered professional technologist who has the significant experience pertaining to the M&E MEP services. He has proven his competency by passing the professional interview and then the professional competency examination. He graduated from University of Manchester in UK and obtained Master of Engineering degree in Mechanical Engineering. He had also experience in handling several high-profile mega projects in Kuala Lumpur. So without further ado, I would like to welcome IR Muhammad Kamal Haziq and lead our webinars today. IR, you can unmute your microphone.
You cannot hear your voice into
I'm sorry.
rekaman. Sorry.
Okay, boleh dengar? Can you hear? Boleh dengar?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cantik. Let me share my screen. So, okay. I'll share you my screen. Okay, you let me know kalau boleh nampak the screen.
Yes.
Alright. So, okay. Right. So, okay. So, you audio okay, visual okay? Okay, we proceed.
Yes.
Okay, cantik. Right. So, very good morning to everyone for attending this session. So as per what you call that, mentioned by the chair lady today, so today's session will be on the what you call that, route to PCE for mechanical paper lah. So I believe everyone here are from the mechanical disciplines, whereby each and every one of you guys are basically joining as a prospective EPC, whereby the exam will be on in 2 weeks time. Betul lah? 2 weeks time. The next 2 weekends. Okay. So hopefully today's session will be beneficial for everyone, including myself as the person who has gone through the process, who has gone through the various papers for PCE previously and passed it. Okay. So I'm here today to share my experiences with everyone, and hopefully uh, everyone here will be able to obtain various tips and various guidelines and various what you call that, insights into how to actually tackle the PCE paper. Okay, so let's start lah. So the contents of the presentation today will be some sort of introduction, just refreshing the format for PCE, what needs to be known about the PCE. Okay, some tips to pass the PCE, either from myself or from some other candidates who have taken it. And then more importantly, we will be covering the various areas of knowledge which are important to be covered for both the common paper and for the mechanical technical paper. Yeah, because if you guys go through the list in the BEM website, there are very much too many topics there, which if you can go through everything, that would be excellent. But there are some topics which I believe which are good to look into, because the questions based on my previous exam, they like to cover those things. So we try to see which are the areas which are important. I'm not saying the other areas which are not covered are not important, but basically just some main areas which have a tendency to be asked in detail as the PEPC, as an ECP later, when you are acting as the submitting person, when you're having plenty of other issues, disputes, payment issues and everything. We'll go through those items. Yeah. And then something important, some sample questions and suggested answers lah. When we say sample questions, basically we are looking at questions which were given by BM as a guideline for candidates. I believe if you guys have registered, you have got a pack of questions from BM as to what may be coming out in the exam, and also some questions which were gathered from the previous exam. So what we did was, we cannot take out the question paper. That's one thing. But then we tried to remember what we were doing in the exam. After the exam, we gathered together some sort of things that have happened previously that we've tried to do to help future generations taking this exam. Okay. Right, so I believe the moderator has explained a bit about myself. Okay, mechanical, graduate from Manchester. Okay, PPC mechanical and all those things lah. Okay, so a bit of history about myself. So I started working September 2013. Then I took my PE. I applied for my PE a few years down the road. So I completed my PE first year, not to say first year lah, my PE in June 2018 after the conversion process. Took me 4 years and 9 months from working. Then 2018 itself, I tried to play around with my luck, applied for PCE, took the PCE, and thankfully, alhamdulillah, I took it and passed it in the 2018 exam itself. Okay, that's where I am at the moment lah. So I passed it in 2018 November exam. So took me around 5 years, 10 months after working lah. So we'll share the tips and how to go around this PCE first lah. So this one I think you guys are well aware. Yeah. So once you have registered as a graduate engineer, you'll be taking the PAE or PI, or you go through your chartered engineership. Then you convert your respective qualifications to become a PE. Then you go one step further to become PEPC as a submitting person. You take the PCE and pass it, then you become a PEPC. Okay. So the governing provisions are covered by this act lah, REA, Registration of Engineers Act, RER, Registration of Engineers Regulations. Yeah. So you guys, I think, sudah khatam these things. Okay. As preparation for your exam. So these are the provisions in the act and the regulations for the various types of registered persons under BEM. So as a PEPC in the act, so a PEPC must be a registered PE and also has passed the PCE. Okay, senang, nothing too complex on this. Senang as in there's only one requirement lah, you need to pass the PCE, but it's not easy lah. I tell you siap-siap. For those who are taking it for the first time, I tell you siap-siap, it's not easy lah. It's definitely not easy. So you better be on your guard lah when you're taking this exam. Okay. So a bit of format, I think refreshing a bit. If you guys are aware of the format, but let's just go through the format again. So there'll be two parts of the exam for PCE. So for part A is the common paper. When we say common paper, it's basically, especially for your civil, mechanical, and electrical disciplines, whereby each of these disciplines will be taking the exam to become submitting persons for your CCC, for your G forms, yeah, as an ECP and everything. So this common paper is common respectively for your civil, electrical, mechanical, which will be testing you on the various common items. When we say common, is related to your CCC, your G form, your contract administration, your or some sort of common law knowledge, maybe touching a bit on your Employment Act and everything. Then how do you establish an ECP? What are the compositions of an ECP? ECP is the engineering consultancy practice. All those things we'll be going through each quite depth later. Yeah. So for part A, for your common paper, okay, you have to note that this exam is an open book exam for all papers, which means you can take your notes, go into the exam hall, and then you can refer to your notes lah. But just careful, when we say open book exam, your notes, when you want to take in your notes, make sure the notes are properly binded, because BM doesn't allow candidates to take in loose notes. That means you cannot take one piece of paper as your note, take into the exam. Tak boleh. You need to make sure the notes are properly binded. Yeah, are properly binded, and then you guys can proceed with the exam lah. Yeah, you bring in banyak mana pun, no worries, as long as they are properly binded. Make sure, jangan bawa selai, dua lai, cannot. They won't take you. They won't allow you to bring in. Yeah, make sure they are properly binded. So for part A, common paper, you have two papers. First paper is the objective paper, 1 hour 30 minutes. 40 questions, answer all, passing.
Sorry, we are unable to receive your voice.
Can you unmute your microphone? Hi, Muhammad Kamal. We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Hello, yeah, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay, tadi which part? When I started this thing ke jadi mute? When I started this paper, is
The
it?
previous page.
Apa yang lain semua ni, I think everyone is aware lah. So we'll just go through this format lah. Okay, still here, still audible lah.
Yeah.
Okay, cantik. So we'll just go through the format lah, just to refresh the what you call that, everybody's mindset. So we have two parts. First part is the common paper. When we say common paper, in general, especially for the civil, mechanical, and electrical disciplines, yeah. Basically, when we talk about these three main disciplines, they are taking this exam for them to become PEPCs, to become submitting persons, to become what you call that, founders or partners of ECP, engineering consultancy practice. So this common paper will be more focused on, for our side, for mechanical, will be more towards the various items with regards to being a submitting person lah. Your CCC, your G form, and then some common law knowledge. Okay, because when you are running an ECP as a principal, as an owner, there may be some contractual disputes, contractual issues that you will be facing. So you need to know how to handle them. That's why BM is testing you on that. And then probably some G's here and there about the Employment Act. Take note, I kena that time. Suddenly got some question dia tanya pasal Employment Act. So nasib baik I bought the Employment Act in the exam hall. Okay. So, and the various common items as a submitting person lah. Okay. So that we'll go through the what you call that, areas of knowledge later. Okay. So for the common paper, there'll be two papers. Paper 1 objective, paper 40 questions, answer all, 1.5 hours, passing mark 50%. And then paper 2, there'll be subjective questions. Okay. Subjective questions, it may be short questions, it may be long questions, it depends. So there'll be 1 hour 30 minutes allocated for you. Okay. There'll be 5 questions, 5 essay questions. When I say 5, it's not only 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'll be 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, until 5A, 5B, 5C. Choose 3 of them. You choose 3 of them. So you have 1 hour 30 minutes to answer the essay questions. At the start of them, you'll be given additional 15 minutes reading time. That means 15 minutes at the start of paper 2 for common paper, it is just for reading. Okay, reading. That means you don't answer yet, you cannot answer yet. You just read through the questions, then you strategize which questions are the best for you to answer. Okay, 15 minutes reading time, then you proceed with the 1 hour 30 minutes for you to answer the question. That is common paper. Okay, just take note that this exam is an open book exam. You can bring in whatever notes you want, tak kisah. You want to bring in banyak mana pun, you don't care. As long as they are properly binded. Make sure the notes are binded properly, because BM doesn't allow you to take in loose notes. When I say loose notes, so maksudnya they won't allow you to bring in one sheet of note, tak boleh, cannot. It must be properly binded inside the comprehensive consolidated notes. Okay, jangan bawa one helai, two helai, they won't allow you. Make sure the notes are properly binded. Once you bind them, you can bring in how many, tak kisah. As long as you can angkat them masuk dalam exam hall. Okay, that's for your common paper. Technical paper is an open book exam as well. So this one is specifically for our discipline lah, mechanical lah. Okay, your ECMB, fire protection, cold water, lift, escalator pun kena, LPG pun kena, all the various technical items lah for your mechanical discipline, for our mechanical discipline. Same thing, 2 papers. Paper 1 is objective, 40 questions, answer all, 1 hour 30 minutes. Paper 2, subjective paper, 5 essay questions, pilih 3, 1 hour 30 minutes with 15 minutes reading time at the start lah. So you have to take note that the passing mark for each paper is 50%. When we say 50%, each paper individually must be more than 50%. Okay, so that's the target that we need to have to pass the PCE lah. Okay, so that means when you do part A, your common paper, your paper 1 and paper 2 must be more than 50% for you to pass the paper at this attempt. Same thing goes for your technical paper. Okay, that's a bit of refresher on the PCE format lah. So that's some important note about the PCE. Previously, when you took your PE, your PAE ke your PI, basically you are tested on what you already know. Kenapa? Because it is based on your submission, your experience report, your training and experience report, then your technical report. Is basically what you've done, and you have demonstrated that you are really competent in what you have been doing as an engineer, as a graduate engineer with the minimum experience of 3 years or plus. Then you sit for your PABI, you pass. That means you've shown that you are competent in your current area of knowledge. But for the PCE ni, it's a bit different. The main concept dia, you are tested on not necessarily what you may or may not know, but ought to know as a submitting person. That means, kalau you tengok the BM website of the topics to be addressed in the PCE, for a PE to become a PEPC, the topics are very broad, very wide range of topics. Because all of the items that BM have identified is basically the items that you need to know as a submitting person or as an owner of the ECP, as a PEPC. When you want to endorse items, these issues may happen. So PCE is basically testing you on items that you, regardless if you know or not, you must know as a submitting person, as an ECP owner, as a PEPC. Okay, concept dia kena clear. Once you pass the PCE, they will give you this letter lah, saying that you have passed the PCE. Okay, tuan-puan telah lulus and all those things, then you convert to your PEPC. Okay, some tips to pass the PCE. Okay, so I know everyone in here will have at least some good knowledge, if not better than myself also. You guys maybe otai-otai, very experienced, very taiko in your own companies, in your own firms kan. But this PCE, I tell you, I never underestimate this paper. Contoh, every day you'll be doing fire protection, design, your, what you call that, your submissions, your drawings and everything. Don't feel that this thing cannot fail you lah. This thing is, when I took the exam, especially technical, I ingatkan I know my things already lah. But then, I sesak nafas or not sesak nafas literally lah. But macam, the technical paper, I ingat kacang, wah, it's not senang, you know. I even thought I failed the objective, nasib baik lulus. The objective technical paper. So don't underestimate this paper lah. Make sure you guys take it, every item very seriously. Don't simply confident sangat lah. It's not going to be easy lah. Like I said tadi, if you are capable of doing so, refer to all the items in the BM syllabus. Do not miss out. Kalau mampu lah. But if we have time constraint ke apa, we'll go through the items which I believe are important lah for the PCE. If you mampu go through everything, please go through everything. Because suddenly BM may take one small subtopic yang dia listkan tu, and they can get out a question from there, you know. Careful, you know, dengan this. The best thing is cover everything that you can cover. Okay, one important thing is you don't have to memorize sebab your exam is an open book exam. Yeah?
Engineer Kamal, sorry. Sekarang dah buka slide ke sekarang ni? Ataupun
Ya, sudah buka.
Sudah boleh
Screen
publish,
sharing tadi ya.
boleh publish dekat ni, dekat reading note, reading view. Sebelah kiri. Dekat slide tadi. Dekat publish tadi, dekat publish.
Ada buka dia tu. Ya, this one.
Okay, but this is not on the publish mode. Dekat bawah tu tadi, kiri dia. Yang tu. Okay.
Dia lagi better, is it?
Dia lagi baik. Okay, terima kasih Baik.
Okay, alright.
Baik.
Okay. So the next point, do not memorize your things. Okay? Sebab certain orang dia ingat you need to memorize your facts. Kalau if you can, it is very good. If you don't panic. But you just have to know where you can find your information. That means macam ni contoh this is my bylaw which I took into the exam. Sampai hari ni I have my notes sticking out of the book. Okay. That means during the exam, let's say dia kata please list down the firefighting provisions required for a multi-story, say 4-story hotel. So you can quickly cari which point that you can find, which will be the 10th schedule of UBBL. So the 10th schedule of UBBL is going to list down everything on the firefighting requirements for the various types of buildings. Example okay? That means once you go through your notes, your standards and everything, you can mark down where to find it. That means you don't necessarily need to remember everything, because I think it's going to be a struggle to remember everything. You just gonna now, you just need to know where to find the things. Okay? Time is of the essence, answer smartly and concisely. This one more on the essay questions lah. Like I said, the essay questions, diorang maybe, the questions may, bila you buka questions, so there are some questions that you need to answer in great detail. But some of the questions are quite direct. I tell you 1 hour 30 minutes for essay, for me it's not enough. It's not enough. So you need to plan your answer properly and nicely so that you guys can cover all the questions without missing out anything. And the marking tu macam tadi lah. Highlight all numbers ni, especially for your firefighting, when you refer to your MS, what's the tank capacity of wet riser, hose reel, your sprinkler tank. When you highlight, make sure you all numbers ni BM suka petik lah. They like to take it when you are taking for the exam lah. They can ask you those questions lah. Okay, which is correct, which is not correct. Okay, and contoh one firefighting question, which one is not true, which one is true? 1, sprinkler tank capacity is scan. Number 2, wet riser capacity is scan. 3, hose reel capacity if it's relevant to the thing lah. Especially firefighting ni, they can go to specifics lah, macam objective punya questions kan. Okay, this is the, like I said lah, your marking and everything, make sure you know where to find the info lah. Even objective one, it will take time for you to find the answer. Get the latest standards. Okay, I terkena when I was doing the PCE, the MS1910 for sprinkler, was 2006, the previous version. Then when I took it in 2018, there was this 2017 punya MS1910. Okay, where some information is contradicting between the two lah after they updated the standards. So make sure you guys get the latest standards. Sebab your, like my case tadi, MS1910 for sprinkler, your OH punya sprinkler categorization, okay, they may categorize different buildings in different OH categories, okay, based on the latest standard as compared to the previous standard. So whatever you do, get the latest standards for every standards that is relevant. Invest your time to study, of course. Okay, design, OM knowledge and experience. Okay, when we do the PCE, I would believe that we will need some design fundamentals there. Okay, it's not going to be we need to design the whole thing from scratch to finish. But some of the questions, they may require you to draw some simple schematics. Draw a schematic of your cold water supply system. Draw a schematic of your sprinkler system. Draw a schematic of your pumping arrangement. Valve, downstream, upstream of the pump. Those things can come out. Okay, so it's good to have some fundamentals in design lah. O&M knowledge pun, if you have, it will be helpful. You will see some of my questions later on. how they test on some O&M punya ACMV punya items. We will see that. So you have design experience. I believe everyone here would have got some design experience. So I think no issue. If you have O&M experience, that will be helpful for you also lah. Okay. Then lastly, work in collaboration with other PEs lah. I know there are some groups happening as we speak. Civil PCE lah, mechanical PCE lah. I know there are some groups out there. So if you can find them, join them. Boleh buat study group together lah. So those are the introduction. About introduction. So now we are going to the detail bits lah. Common paper. So these are the items which are important. I wouldn't have time to cover every single item that are listed. Like I said just now, the best thing is if you cover everything listed in the BMT website. But if you are having some sort of time constraint and everything, these are the topics that I believe are important lah. Okay. So firstly, especially as a submitting person, mechanical submitting person, mechanical ECP principal will be your CCC. Okay, that's one of the main reasons why we are taking this exam, to become submitting persons to the authorities. So CCC is one important item. So CCC process. So who issues the CCC, to whom? Okay. Another important aspect is the provisions in the Street Drainage and Building Act. So you can see I have highlighted the sections which are relevant. Senang, because the SDBA, I summarize lah, SDBA, Street Drainage and Building Act. If you go through it, it's going to be very thick lah. Okay. So section 70, 70A, 70B are relevant to building construction, CCC. Okay. You focus on that. Then the UBBL obviously lah. Okay. So who can be the PSP? Okay. This is in circular 7 BM. Okay. We'll just go through. I mean, when I go through, I like to open the things lah, senang sikit kita, so that you have a picture of what I'm talking about here. Okay. Okay, still visible lah the screen though.
Yes.
Okay. So this is circular number 7, like I said. So this circular number 7, you can find it dekat website BM. Okay, you can download later lah. Okay. So you can see here who is the submitting person, who can be a submitting person. For our case as engineers, the submitting person, the PSP, principal submitting person for signing the form F of CCC will be civil. Okay, civil. And also architect lah, nanti kita tengok. There are some items which civil can sign, but there are some items only architect can sign. Ada circular number 9 will segregate which one is available. So when we talk about CCC, there'll be G forms lah, G1 to G21. Okay. So you open this circular, you can see G1, who is the submitting person? PPC, civil of work. G2, setting out. G3, foundation. Okay, civil or geotech. Structural, PPC, civil or structural. G5 ni kita punya internal cold water plumbing, PPC, mechanical or civil, sanitary plumbing, internal, mechanical or civil, electrical. Passive, architect or civil PPC. G9, active ni kita punya lah, exclusively for us. G10, mechanical ventilation for us. Lift escalator, mechanical or electrical, and sampai habis lah. You guys can refer this. C7, ini penting this one. Because you can get some questions, they can ask you, who can sign on G1? Who can sign on G7? Who can sign on G8? Memang boleh keluar those type of questions. Okay. So, going back to this, who can be the submitting person is civil, but going to this one, G1 to G21, who are the respective persons to sign? You can check. You have to go through and take note which SP, which PEPC can sign on which G form. Okay? Sebab kalau you tak go through, you suddenly can get shocked bila you jawab soalan tu. You better go through one by one. Okay? Different PSPs for different types of projects. Okay, different PSPs. This is what I was saying just now. Okay, I show you. This is circular number 9. Submission of building plan by PEPC and architect. Macam like I said, for us, it will be civil PEPCs for your TCC. At the same time, there will be certain types of buildings which can only be submitted either by your PEPC civil or your architect or both. So you can see this circular number 9. You can see this is the agreement between BM dengan BAM, Board of Architect Malaysia.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You are showing different slide, right? Now we only
I
can
tengah,
see
I tengah,
the slide.
you can only see the slide.
Yeah.
Okay, sekejap. Oh, kena tutup kat balik lagi. Sekejap I share my entire screen lah. Right. I think this one better kot. Okay, this one bertukar-tukar tak? This one is the circular ke?
Yeah.
Okay. This is circular 7, betul?
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay. Like I said tadi, circular 7 G1 to G21 ni, take note who will be the submitting person for the different items. Okay, sebab you can get shocked when suddenly question G5, can civil submit and sign for the internal plumbing? The answer is yes. Okay, so jangan terkejut nanti bila dapat this. Mechanical or civil can sign on G5 and G6. Internal plumbing, internal sanitary. Don't have the mindset that only mechanical can sign for internal. Civil pun boleh. Okay, they like to ask these 3 questions lah. Macam your passive submission, even though it sounds firefighting-ish, but firefighting ni is not only for mechanical lah. For passive, it's going to be your architect or even civil boleh sign. Depends on the this circular 009. Okay, circular 009 ni is basically categorizing. Okay, you have appendix A, appendix B, appendix C. Okay, different buildings are put under A, B, and C. So basically for A, architect will be the main submitting person. For B, PEPC is the main submitting person. For C is going to be either or, PEPC civil or architect. So you can see appendix A, this one is by the architect as the main submission, except if where engineering work is required, then the PEPC will be submitting lah for this one. But the main building plan, the main submission will be by the architect for appendix A lah. You can see all the various buildings here lah, A, B, C, D, E, F apa semua ni. Yeah, this one can come out. BM can ask you for clinic, for civil, for cinema, who can be the submitting person. Appendix B ni, your main submitting person is the PEPC civil, except where any architectural work is required. Such plan will be submitted by an architect. Okay, so you can see here lah. So dams, docks, apa semua ni, your PE can submit. Okay, appendix C ni in general lah, architect or a PEPC may submit. So kena take note lah, different buildings may be submitted by different submitting persons. Just kena take note, this is under circular 9. Okay, so that's the thing lah, for this CCC ni is not going to be that straightforward. You kena ni. So tengah nampak slide ke sekarang? Correct?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Right. Different PSPs for different project we've covered. Duties of PSP, this one you can just refer to your section 70 of Street Drainage and Building Act. G form kita dah cover. Penalties for non-compliance. Okay, this one I rasa I buka the acts lah, senang. Section 70, 27, I pun dah ingat lah. Okay, so you guys can see the Street Drainage and Building Act, betul?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so 27, so these are the, what you call that, kesalahan done by the respective person okay. If you have submitted but you've issued a CCC but you're not a PSP, issue a CCC without the relevant form, G form tak cukup, okay, and contravening ataupun you make any fraud statement, fraud declaration and everything. So this will be the punishment. Section 70, 27. Okay. Like I said, this street drainage and building is very tebal lah. So you focus on section 70, 70A, 70B cukup. Okay, you cover lain-lain, you will take time. Okay. So what's the punishment for this kesalahan? You will be liable to be fined not exceeding 250,000 ringgit or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years or both. Senang. Because I ingat one of the questions keluar which apa nama, what will be the penalty ke apa, something like that. They can ask you what's the penalty for not being compliant to the CCC requirements. They can ask you. So this is the answer. Okay. So if you want to go through everything, see, ni dah page 86. There, I think this one baru half So you don't go through everything. Focus on the important items for your CCC. Okay. Full CCC, partial CCC, and everything lah. So you can refer to here. I believe you would have got these notes already. So you focus on the sections that are marked here lah. Senang. You want to go through everything, nanti you will take time lah. So to shortcut, we just focus on the sections. Okay, so that's one thing, your CCC. Registration of Engineers Act. Okay. I think this one you guys would have covered already, tapi just want to make sure that BM can ask you because especially you can see the red items the black items tu I think okay lah. Board, admin matters ni tak ada issue, registered person no issue, qualification for registered person I think kau team. But these items here, you have to take note lah, because when you are a PEPC, you want to set up your ECP, there are the conditions that you need to fulfill, that you need to comply to make sure your ECP remains valid and not penalized by BEM. Okay, so you can refer to this, especially for the ECP punya. This one you can find on BEM website, the REA, RER together with the summary note. Summary note ni sedap sikit baca. Okay. So you can see for your ECP the question boleh tanya you what's the minimum requirement for PEPC in your ECP. Okay, so this is the answer for who will be the composition of the board of directors. Macam if you are opening a sole proprietorship ECP, the owner, the principal must be a PEPC, cannot be anyone else. And the PEPC too must be related to the discipline that you are practicing. Okay, you cannot be a mechanical PEPC, then you are offering services on civil, tak boleh, cannot. You must focus on your discipline. And as a sole proprietorship, the principal, the owner must be a PEPC, full stop. If it's a partnership, okay, all the partners must be PEPC, no negotiation on that one. All partners must be PEPC. Okay. So if you are a body corporate, okay, you're sendirian berhad and everything, so 70%, okay, the equity must be held by PEPC. You may open some equity for other parties, but maximum shall be only 30%. The remaining equity must be held by PEPC, and at least 2/3 of directors must be a PEPC. You can take note lah, if you're opening a body corporate, these are the requirements lah. This is basically a summary of the actual act lah dalam tu. So you have a shortcut kat sini lah, you can refer to these notes lah. Okay. So you take note, the equity percentage 70-30, 70 PEPC. Board of directors must be 2/3 of PEPC for the directors for ECP body corporate. Okay, these are the relevant acts lah. Okay, and then the equity requirements and everything macam tadi Okay. Okay, if you're opening a single disciplinary practice, okay, so the acceptable range of share equity from 100% PEPC owned to die minimum of 70% PEPC, cannot be less for single disciplinary practice. Okay, some may opt to open a multidisciplinary practice, okay, comprising of PEPC, architect, quantity surveyor. When I say architect and QS, they are registered persons under the respective lembaga lah. So basically, what's the acceptable requirement for PEPC? The requirement in the Act is a minimum of 10% must be solidly with PEPC. Okay. And then what you call that? It can go from 90% for the respective professional bodies, PEPC, architect, and quantity surveyor, up to maximum of 30% sama. Okay, for anybody else 30%. So minimum 10% must be reserved for PEPC, and the 60% must be catered for the other professionals. Okay, PEPC, professional architect, professional QS. Same thing for your multidisciplinary practice. Your only a maximum of 30% is allowed for anybody or any persons. So now I'm hearing there are going to be some sort of adjustments ke apa, but as of now, this is the thing which is gazetted. Any changes, I believe, will be catered later lah for subsequent changes. I'm hearing there are going to be some adjustments to the outside persons as we speak lah. Okay, but it's not been finalized yet. It's still under survey, still under study. But as of now, we take what we will take it as it is lah. So maximum 30% for anybody. Okay, so you as a ECP punya principle, when you set up your ECP, you need to take note of the minimum requirements for shareholding, for equity, for board of directors. Okay, codes of conduct ni, you can open your regulation lah. You can open your regulation. Regulation number 23, okay, to 33 kat sini. Okay. Because I remember kena one question for essay, they bagi you one case study, the engineer is doing this, doing that. Then question is very simple. Which section of the regulations have been contravened or violated by the engineer? Nah, so you, to make things easy for everyone, you just find it from this one. This one is regulation, not the act. This is registration of engineers regulation, number 23 to 33. So you guys can just cari makan from here lah. So you can study the case and then you can see which one they dah contravene lah. Okay. See. This one is quite famous lah. Canvas or solicit professional employment. That means what they do they try to harass people to get services, apa semua cannot. Okay. See, all of these things lah. Okay, just take note lah. You can have an idea where to find. Like I said, don't memorize. You can just find it within regulation 23 to 33. Keep it in your back pocket. Nanti kalau question tanya, you know where to find lah. Then you can study lah. Okay. Penalties for non-compliances for the act senang, very easy. You can see section 25 of the act. Okay. You can find it. These will be the punishments lah. Okay. Any person, sole proprietorship, shall be liable to a fine not exceeding 10,000 ringgit, 1 year to both and everything. You can find lah. Okay, if the question tanya what's the punishment based on the Registration of Engineers Act, you go to section 25. You can see the punishments kat sini. Okay, senang lah. I give you shortcut lah. Okay, sebab now shortcut is important lah for this stage. Next one, the circulars. Kalau you mampu, go through every single circular. Okay, so this will be available in BM's website. Okay, there are many circulars. So 001 code of conduct ni, just keep it, just print semua, keep it in your back pocket, masuk dalam exam hall. CPD requirements ni I think very easy, you know lah. PE 25 hours per year, PEPC 50 hours per year. Ngam. Okay, submission of sewerage and sanitary plumbing works. Okay, you just kena take note who will be the submitting person. Civil dengan mechanical, where's the line? Is in the circular. Supervision of construction works, just take note, go through. Advertising by registered person ni nothing much. The number 7 tu, like I said, the respective G form, who can sign, that one is very important, take note. Number 8 ni pun very important juga. Okay. Procedure for a registered engineer or an ECP taking over the work of another registered engineer. This one is a favorite topic, I tell you. I think not sekali lah. I think this is one of the favorite items that they can ask you. So we open this. That's why I'm going to open the number 8 punya circular, because this one is very important. Macam boleh kata a favorite thing lah in the exam. So circular number 8, procedure for a registered engineer or an ECP taking over the work of another registered engineer or and ECP. Okay, why is this circular for? Summary dia is basically when the project is started, the client hires engineer A, the original engineer lah, the original PPC, original ECP to do the submissions, to do the drawings, endorsements and everything. Then through the middle of the project, ada issue between the client and the engineer A tadi. So the client is thinking of getting engineer B on the project. So what are the procedures? This is covered by this circular. Okay, this is the items which are covered by the circular. Okay, so you can see from the regulation study, see regulation 31 of the regulations within the range that we mentioned tadi 23 to 33 tadi. So a registered engineer must not do this supplant or attempt to supplant any other registered engineer or ECP, intervene, take over any work acting of the registered engineer or an ECP acting for the same client, unless you should not take any work of the original engineer or original ECP unless you have obtained the consent of the original engineer or the original ECP, or you have been notified by the client that the services of the other engineer, that means the engineer A tadi or the ECP A tadi, have been terminated in accordance to the provisions of any contract. Okay, if there's any dispute, then there's another process going on between the parties. Okay, but in summary, the new engineer B, shall not take over the works unless they settle number C ni, and they shall not attempt to kacau the works of the original person. Okay, kena take note, you cannot simply go in there. So the question may ask you, you are engineer B, how are you going to approach this? How are you, the client wants to approach you, engineer B, to take over? What, as a registered PPC, registered ECP, what will be your take on taking over the job? They can ask you that. So you can explain what you're going to be doing lah. Okay. So these things may be asked lah. Okay. And then this taking over ni will be what you call that? May involve BEM jugalah. Okay. Sebab there'll be some disputes between the first engineer and the client. So there's a process of settling the dispute between the first engineer and the client. Okay, that one kena take note juga. Okay. So in summary, you kena take note that to take over the job, you have to refer circular 8 ni. Okay. As a new consultant that the client is approaching, what you can do, what you must do before you take over. That can be part of the question. Okay. Submission of plan by PPC and architect, we've gone through. You can see which are the plans that may be submitted by PPC, which are the plans may be submitted by the architect. It depends on the types of buildings. Number 10, okay. So basically, when we're doing a project, there is always the possibility of the client getting another engineer to peer review the work of the original engineer. That's allowable, okay. Review, not taking over. Taking over, you have to go to circular 8. But reviewing the work of the original consultant, you can refer to circular number 10. Okay, circular number 10 is basically telling us, okay, it is permissible for the client to get a third-party reviewer to review the original works of the original engineers lah. So you can see the various processes, the various review works that can be done lah. Okay, I won't go through lah, masa tak banyak. So you guys can go through here lah. I'm just telling you guys, there's a procedure to it. And what are the scope of review, you can refer to that, to those things. Okay. The other circulars ni maybe not too critical lah. General advice on giving second opinion, you can check number 10 ni juga. Payment of stamp duty, you just go through quickly. The others ni more to civil side lah. Subsurface investigation, accredited checker, this one is not applicable to mechanical. So in summary, for circulars, please go through the circulars, because if you don't go through, certain to you may never come across before. Okay, you cannot go through these ones. Okay, and apart from the circulars, there will be BEM guidelines. Okay, guidelines ni is basically a set of guidelines that BEM give to face the what you call that, the situations lah. Okay, so there'll be a guideline for the role and responsibility of professional engineers for temporary works during construction, IBS works and its impact on the scale of fees, and then for us, M&E, a guide to good engineering practice for M&E engineers. Okay, and these are the other guidelines lah. So if you have time, you go through this one lah. Okay, just go through this one if you have the time. But critical ones are this one lah, the circular ni. Scale of fees. Okay, scale of fees ni penting because it's actually something which is mandatory to be implemented, but we don't know to what extent it's been implemented, but it's actually mandatory. So basically, you can see the scale of fees. There'll be basic professional services for different types of works lah, structural works, systems, engineering system, in building, I think ours are this one, other types of works. So you can see the professional services being segregated into various stages lah. So you can see conceptual stage design, schematic stage design, detail design, tender design, construction design. Okay, you can see all those in the scale of fees lah. Okay, basic professional services. Apart from that, there are additional services which are additional, which are not included in the basic services. You can see the scale of fees nanti. You can check. BAM can ask you which one is basic professional services, which one can be considered additional. That those sort of questions may go out lah. You can refer to the scale of fees lah. Supervision on site, okay, can check balik whether it's mandatory ke. It should be mandatory ah. Because there's some question pernah tanya. Which one is true or false lah, okay. So one of the options was supervision on site is not being provided by the consultant. Is it okay or not? They can answer. The answer is not okay lah. Must be part of the package for the submitting person. And then you can see all of these are basically covered in the tables for the schedule of fees lah, percentage tables lah, multipliers lah, okay. The stage of payments and other payments lah. So for the scale of fees, most importantly, number one, you identify the different types of works. Number two, what are the stages of professional services? And what are the additional scopes and supervision on site? And lastly, the tables lah in the scale of fees. Okay. Contract administration. This one basically, kenapa BEM is testing on this? It is basically because, like I said, when you are an ECP owner, you get contracted to a client. Okay, there may be instances whereby there are issues between you and the client. Mainly, generally, biasanya payment lah is the issues. Okay, so how do we deal as the owner of the ECP when we are having this issue with the client? So BM wants to make sure all PPCs are versed in these areas as well lah, contract administration. Okay, so you can answer what constitutes a legal contract, which contract is valid, which contract is not valid, apa semua tu, you need to have an idea on that. Okay, so in summary semua, you guys can refer to the Contracts Act 1950. Okay, Contract Act 1950, I just open dulu Okay, it's quite tebal, but if we can go through in detail, it's going to be very, very enriching for you guys. Okay, so you can see this act here covers apa? See, what agreements are legal contracts? Sebab certain agreements may not be legal contracts. Okay, when we say contract, it is something which is legally binding between you and the client, you and your customer, you and your employer. So one basic concept is which type of agreements are contracts, which types of agreements are void in terms of contracts. Okay, ada dalam ni, you guys can go through. See, if they are made by the free consent, number one, free consent of the parties, competent parties to a contract, number two, who are the competent parties, lawful consideration and lawful object, and are not hereby expressly declared to be void, something like that. Okay, so you guys can go through all of these lah. Okay, macam here, you can see lah, one one item for constituting a valid contract is the contract is made by a person with a sound mind. That means he must be sound and sane for him to do a contract. You can answer this illustration scene is very good. Okay, you can see all of these illustrations in the act itself. Macam a patient in a mental hospital, if he is in a sound mind at some intervals, may contract during those intervals. Okay, macam a sane man who is delirious from fever or who is so drunk, who cannot understand the terms of the contract, cannot contract. That means if you are entering a contract with a person who is not sound mind, who is not sane at the moment, they can dispute it to be not legal in terms of contract. Consent, that means two or more person. I won't go through satu-satu lah. I'm just showing you guys. You can go through the act here, and the good thing about this act here, they bagi illustrations to make it clear on those things lah. So kena understand what constitutes a legal contract. So when you are in a legal contract with another party, then all of these items kat bawah ni will take place. Okay, the favorite item will be the payment lah. So what happens if you are contracted to a client? That means the contract tu, you sign the contract saying that client will pay you at certain intervals of the work lah. 25% completion, 50%, 75, 80, 90, 100%. Suddenly you get to 25, 50% completion, the client doesn't pay you. So what are the remedies that you guys have that you guys can try to challenge it? Okay, payments and commercial matters. So in a contract administration terms, there are a few items that you can approach as remedies lah. Okay, the first thing is your contract itself. If you have signed a contract, the client has signed a contract, and the contract clearly states that the client needs to pay you at certain milestones of the project, that you have reached the milestone but they haven't paid you, then the client is in breach of his contract and he needs to fulfill the contractual obligation to pay you. Contoh. Okay, contoh.
Dia punya basic component lah. Nanti saya cerita pasal high end ni sikit.
Okay.
Kena tak display kan. Itu antara yang kena ada lah. Ni semua basic ni sebenarnya. Harga dia 30 ke 40 ringgit je.
Okay. So basically, when we talk about payments and commercial matters, okay, firstly contract punya remedy. If suddenly the contract tu doesn't have those things, dia tak specify what's the payment milestone apa semua tu, you have other remedies that you can go through. One of them is the CIPA Act, Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication punya Act. Okay, you can approach a third party adjudicator ni under CIPA Act. I buka CIPA Act ni CIPA Act, okay, this one. Okay. So this CIPA Act is the Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication Act 2012. Okay. Why is this act kat sini? So in general, for construction industry, payment is one of the sensitive issues lah. Okay. So it is either you are getting paid properly according to your contract, or you are not getting paid accordingly to your contract. So if you are one of the parties yang terkena and you are not being compensated as per agreed, you have this act here for you as one of your possible remedies. Okay, so what is the remedy we are talking about? So basically, they are getting a third party adjudicator to basically mediate between the two parties, you and the client. You submit your points, your client submit your points, and then the adjudicator will evaluate and then will decide who is the correct party, who gets to be paid, who doesn't need to be paid, and everything. Okay, that's one of the remedies if you're not being paid properly by the client. Okay, so this CIPA Act is very useful sebab you can use it as your remedy. You can see lagi. We will show you the sample question nanti. Variations and changes. Okay, if you have done your works up to a certain, okay, your client asks you to construct a building which is 4 stories high. Okay, so you are doing your works diligently, finishing on time. towards the end of the project, the client bagi the instruction for you to actually construct 2 additional floors dekat atas. So your original scope in your contract is to cover 4 stories only. Then towards the end of the project, the client asks you to add on 2 stories. That's where you, as the ECP punya owner, when you're doing design, you need to be well alert of your original scope, your new scope, and how much additional is the new scope. Okay, because you need to take note lah. I mean, there's nothing free in this world basically. If you want to do it for free, tak ada apa lah. You are very kind lah. But I don't think that's the case nowadays lah. Nothing is free. So if the client asks you towards the end of the project to add on new floors, you have to evaluate and submit your variation claims for additional scope of works. Okay, kena take note. Don't simply freely give the service lah, which will not happen lah. I think your team pun nanti marah lah nanti, okay? Changes and everything. That's in terms of additional scope. Ataupun another item which may be a variation would be you finish everything in the project. Suddenly the client, I mean, contohlah you finish your design, okay, for a project. Then suddenly you have this, the client suddenly introduces a fundamental change in the works which needs you to redesign everything. That in itself is considered abortive work. You dah finish your work, you need to start balik baru. That's where you need to go to the client and tell them this is a variation. This is abortive work. We finish our work, but then now you're asking us to do more. That's where your variation skills, negotiation can take place lah. So variation and changes is very important. And the next one, extension of time, is also important. Sebab when you're doing a project, there'll be some element of time that you need to comply to, schedule apa semua kan. So you finish the project within 1 year. Then suddenly there are changes by the client, macam saya cakap tadi, the changes, additional floor ke apa. That's where you need to negotiate for additional time for you to complete the new works. Ataupun kalau abortive work, you need to negotiate for the abortive redesign. Okay. And then the other items lah, suspension. What can cause the contracting party to be suspended of the works? Macam your progress is too slow ke, you're not complying to the milestone requirements ke apa, your client, is it valid for the client to suspend you from the works? Okay, you're doing some major issue ke apa kan. Determination mean is being terminated lah from the works. Okay, or you can cover non-completion and damages. Okay, if your schedule is to finish within 1 year, 1.5 years jalan, you still tak finish. So what are the damages that the client can charge you? Okay, that may be included in the contract juga. Completion, what does it mean by completion? What constitutes completion? What does it mean by completion? Itu kena take note juga. Handing over. Okay, then defects. Okay, so when you have completed the project, there'll usually be a defect liability period of let's say 12 months, 24 months. So what are the rights of the client if let's say there's a defect within the DLP period? Tu kena jawab juga. Okay. Post completion and final account. Okay. Reference to Contracts Act lah. This one, like I mentioned just now lah. So in summary, PEPC or an ECP principal needs to be versed in contract administration, which may be an area which is not really covered much. Okay. In your day-to-day work. Sebab usually kadang-kadang biasanya all your principals, all your bosses lah will be doing this. Whereas we engineers suddenly usually will more be involved in the design, again, endorsements apa semua without looking at the higher picture, because usually the higher pictures are being covered by our bosses lah. But in fact, these are important items that you as a PEPC, as an ECP owner in the future must know. Okay, so you take note of these things lah. Okay, so relating to this, there are the standard forms of contracts and applications lah. So you can see the JKR forms of contract, PAM forms of contract, CIDB form of contracts, and other forms of contracts. Okay, so you can, if you are able to open and have these forms of contracts, you can see for JKR form what can be considered a variation, what can be done, what must be done to claim a variation, EOT. What is the grounds for terminating the contracting party. Okay, all of these ada dalam the respective forms which may differ from one form to another lah. Okay, so these are related to this. Okay, I ada last time when I was doing this, I tak ingat lah. I compiled a table JKR, PAMS, IDB apa semua ni, and I listed down which clauses cover this, which clauses cover this, which clauses cover this. But unfortunately, I lost it. So I tak ingat where I put those things lah. Okay. So a good thing that you guys can do is you guys have the time, you guys go through the forms of contract, check where is it written about variations, where is it written about EOT, where is it written about suspension of works, where is it written about terminating the works, completion, what sort of defect apa semua, you guys can refer to each contract. Kenapa these things are important? Because you may cross refer to these contracts when you are answering your essay questions. Your essay questions is about variation, EOT. So you guys can just plug which clauses in the JKR form bagi tahu pasal EOT, which clauses in the PAM forms tells you about EOT, about variation, about additional claims and everything. Okay, so these standard forms of contracts are also important. You guys can keep it in your back pocket for your essay questions. Okay, civil law. Okay, civil law ni is basically something important. Okay, basic concepts of torts. Okay, tadi ni is more on contractual obligation. Now this is more on the common law practices in Malaysia. Okay, so apart from contractual punya remedies that you can pursue, and apart from the SIPA Act that you can pursue as a remedy, okay, the civil law and the basic torts ni may also be a source of remedy. Okay, if you are engaged in a project, in a contract and everything. Okay, so basically you as a consultant, you have a duty of care to the public or client. Okay, you have a duty of care to the public, to the client. That means when you're doing design, okay, firefighting, okay, we must make sure that our design are in compliance to the various standards like MS standards, UBBL standards, BOMBA requirements and everything. So once we have demonstrated that we are covering them in accordance to the standard practices and we are not deviating from the standard practices, then we are safe because we have been able to demonstrate that we are having a duty of care to the public and to the client. We are discharging our responsibilities appropriately. Okay, that's the basic concept of this item. Okay, like I said tadi lah, okay, your first remedy is your contract based on contract law provisions apa semua. Okay, and your next remedy is your statutory provisions. If suddenly the client asks you to do something which is not in accordance to the acts, to the bylaws, that's where you can dispute and make reference to the statutory provisions. Okay, and the next remedy will be the tort. Okay, the civil wrong which leads to the injury of others, tort of negligence. Okay, for example, you as the client, okay, you are engaging a consultant, then the consultant main they are having flaws in their design, but works dah habis dah, and then something not happens, you as a client may pursue the contracting party as being negligent to your duty of care to the public of client, something like that. Okay, so to what extent is the PEPC being liable? Okay, whether your design should be based on reasonable skill and care or fit for purpose. Okay, this one kena check contract lah. If let's say you are designing a boiler system or your furnace, then the client specify in the contract it is fit for purpose, whereby you need to achieve a temperature of, let's say, 950 degrees C in the furnace. So bila dia buat design, bila you buat design suddenly, when you want to test, commission apa semua, your furnace can only go up to 900 degrees C, which is not meeting the client punya requirement, which is fit for purpose. So you, as the designer, as the manufacturer of that furnace, is actually not in compliance to your contract with the client, something like that. That's what it means by fit for purpose. When we say reasonable skill and care, it's basically more towards standard practices lah. Normal, you can see the last line, the Bolam test, normal ordinary practice by normal people. That means, like I said lah, when you're designing your firefighting systems, the normal expectation for normal people, which is us, is to design in accordance to the standards, bomba requirements, uniform building bylaws. That's it. If you're in compliance to that, okay, tak ada issue. Okay. So all of these things are the concepts that we may need to be, if you are having the knowledge of these things, then it'll be very good for you guys lah. Okay. The general acts, this one I won't go through too deep lah. So the SDBA is very important. Fire Services Act. Okay, you guys can go through more on the fire cert lah. Okay. Then the Water Services Industry Act ni quite important, especially when you go through the rules ataupun regulations. They like to ask you on the water demand apa semua tu lah, all of those things, then the span requirements and everything. SIPA Act 2012, Limitation Act, Factories and Machinery Act. I think this one a few days ago ada some updates to the Factories and Machinery Act. Okay. Employment Act 1955, Contracts Act 1950 ni yang tadi. This one, the Employment Act ni, like I said during my year, I terkena this question. Nasib baik objektif, I can refer back. What's the valid apa? If I recall correctly, the question was about what sort of leave provisions, cuti provisions are valid as per the Employment Act. So you need to go through the act and check satu-satu. They give you a few options, which one is true, which one is false. All those things can go out. Okay, some sort of those things. Kenapa? Because you as an employer later ECP, you hire people, you need to also be versed in your employment punya act. If there's anything wrong with you, your future staff nanti, then you need to go back to the Employment Act. Okay, so in summary, like I said, all the acts listed on BM's website under the PCE syllabus. Ni baru something yang interesting sikit lah. Okay, sample questions for common paper. Okay. Okay, so basically, ni soalan yang I cakap tadi lah. Which one of the following is true or are true? Only mechanical PEPCs can submit active fire protection plans. Only civil or mechanical PEPCs can submit passive fire protection plans. PEPCs of any discipline can submit active fire protection plans. Electrical PEPCs can submit electrical plans. So which one is true? This one will have to refer back to the circular number 7 tadi tu. So I won't spend too much time. Maybe some of you guys may be terkejut. Okay, you guys may be terkejut. Again, the answer is A. Kenapa? I'll just cross check to your circular number 7 tu. What's the thing here? Mechanical PEPCs can submit fire protection plan. Okay lah, this one senang lah. Okay, mechanical firefighting. PEPC mechanical only. Okay, this is from the circular. So mechanical PEPC, okay. So number 3 ni gone lah. Okay, sebab PEPC of any discipline can submit active fire protection plan, cannot. Only active for mechanical. So C is out. For passive, submitting person shall be architect or PEPC civil. Okay, so only civil or mechanical PEPC can submit passive fire protection plan for industrial building. This one get out already lah. Cannot. Okay, architect or civil PEPC. Okay, nombor 4 ni kenapa salah? Only electrical PEPCs can submit electrical plans. Sounds correct, but actually kena cross refer. Okay, this is the G7, internal electrical. Okay, submitting person shall be PEPC, but ada sini. However, for a small project where no PEPC is appointed and the intake power supply is 60 amperes or less, the words not applicable can be affixed to the SP signature place. The competent person registered under ST shall be responsible for the design and installation of the electrical works. So if you refer to the Electricity Regulation 1994, there are the different competent persons which may submit plans, drawings and specifications kat situ. That's why number D ni, it is partially correct. Dia tak adalah totally wrong, but it is not correct. Not only electrical PEPCs, all of these wiremen semua ni pun ada some sort of limitation for them to endorse punya barang. See, wiremen with 3-phase restrictions, low voltage rated at 60 amperes and below. Okay, electrical supervisor, low voltage rated at 100 amperes and below. Okay, so that's why it is not only PEPC electrical saja. Okay, next question. The main con owes a subcontractor 2 million ringgit for work done under a subcontract and fails to pay B. Subsequent to protracted negotiations, B agrees to accept from A a payment of 1 million ringgit in satisfaction of the whole debt. What is the effect of this agreement? Okay, so A hutang B 2 million, fails to pay B, they negotiate, so B finally accepts from A to pay 1 million ringgit, consider 1 million ringgit tu kau terima habis. Done, no more debt. So what's the effect of this agreement? Okay, is it B can still claim the outstanding 1 million ringgit, B can challenge, the whole debt is discharged, agreement is void in law, B can claim under common law. Answer is the whole debt is discharged. Okay, is in the Contracts Act. I will show you the illustration ni kenapa. This is the, what you call that, perfect illustration answering that question. Okay, okay. Every promisee may dispense with or remit wholly or in part the performance of the promise made to him, or may extend the time for such performance, or may accept instead of it any satisfaction which he thinks fit. So basically the last sentence here resolves the issue. They accept it and he's satisfied with it to close the issue. Okay, you can see this illustration dekat sini. Number B. Okay, A hutang B 5,000. Okay, then A pays to B 2,000 ringgit paid at the time in which the 5,000 ringgit were payable. The whole debt is discharged. That means A hutang B 5,000. Then A pays to B 2,000 ringgit. Okay, when patutnya 5,000 ringgit was supposed to be paid, but he only paid 2,000 ringgit, but he paid in satisfaction of the whole debt. B puas hati, satisfied that the whole debt is being discharged by the 2,000 ringgit. So what's the implication? The whole debt is discharged. That means the agreement here, make sure walaupun you hutang 5,000, but the party yang terkesan tu, he is satisfied to relieve the balance. That means this thing is considered closed. Exactly the same issue macam ni. Okay, so you kena take note lah this one. 3. If the original or first consultant refuses or neglects to issue a letter of release, to which body must a complaint be made? This one bonus question lah kot. DM circular number 8 lah. Okay, ingat lah. When a client approaches you, engineer B, to take over the works of the engineer A tadi tu, the engineer A must release himself via a letter of release before you can take over the project. And anything wrong, kena complain kat BM lah. This one is a bonus question lah. Okay, this circular lah macam tadi. So that is paper 1 lah. Paper 1 is more on these things lah. Okay, CCC, contract, and then the change of consultant apa semua. Okay, so this is the common paper for, paper 2 for common paper, your subjective. Factory, this exam was during my year lah, 2018. Kita orang ingat, after the exam je, we cepat-cepat salin balik somewhere because we cannot take out the question paper, nor you can bring in your phones, cannot, tak boleh. So lepas habis paper tu, we went out and we catat balik whatever that we can remember lah. So some of us, so we managed to get one of these lah. So a factory has been operating for 1 year. You are the PSP. From a tip-off, the factory is deemed to not be operating with the CCC. you claim that you have forgotten to submit a copy of the CCC to the local authority and BEM. So what can the local authority do? Question A. Question B, it is found out that a works for a particular section, one of the G forms, have not been completed when the CCC was issued for this factory. So the works have been completed since then. What is the effect to your CCC? Ni yang cakap tadi, number C ni. Which section of the Street Drainage and Building Act and Registration of Engineers Regulation have been violated? Okay. Suggested answer ni I remember, so these are the suggested answers, okay. So these are the answers that I remember that lebih kurang macam ni lah I submitted during the year lah. Correct ke tak, I don't know lah, sebab basically we never got back the answer sheet apa semua, but these are the suggested answers lah. So what can the local authority do? They can order the factory to close until a new CCC is issued. If you refer to the Street Drainage and Building Act, Section 70, I dah bagi specific clauses here. There is some provisions in the Act, Street Drainage and Building Act, for the local authorities to do something here lah. Okay, so they can order factory to close until a new CCC is issued and everything. So what happens if the G form is not completed when CCC is issued? Senang. You don't have your G form 1 to 21, your CCC is void. Okay, memang void. So what you need to do, you need to reapply the CCC tu balik. Okay. Because for your CCC to be legal and not void, all your 21 G form kena accompany the F form. F form to your CCC form lah. So your CCC, this is my suggested answer for this one. CCC void, have to reapply, face penalty. Okay, reference as per these clauses above lah. They refer balik dengan this one. Okay, so which section of the Street Drainage and Building Act have been violated? You can refer to this section lah, 70, 72, 73. Registration of Engineers Regulation 23, 24, 25 lah. Okay. Kita buka lah sikit saja nak tengok. Okay. What is this? 70, 23 to 25. Ni. This is what the, okay. If it appears 70, 23, if it appears to the local authority that the non-compliance, the local authority may issue to the PSP, number 1, a notice in writing requiring compliance within a period specified in the notice in order that the non-compliance be rectified. Or they can actually issue in writing to withhold the issuance of the CCC. Okay. So basically, if the direction of withholding name, if your project is still in progress lah. So these are the powers that the local authorities may do. If your CCC is having the issue here lah, you can refer to these clauses here lah. Okay. Next, a client instructs the QS to redact the VO recommendation by the M&E consultant. The VO is issued by the client for an NSC nominated subcontractor to change to an alternative method against the tendering method. The client claims that there have been agreement with the NSC for enhanced reduced fees, but the NSC claims that there has been no agreement. The M&E consultant rejects the view of the client and maintains his stand, since he mentioned that the costing evaluation shows that the costing is fair, reasonable, and is contractually correct. So this thing has caused an issue on the final account of NSC. The NSC comes to you for advice. So apa cerita dia, panjang kan cerita dia kan. So the cerita is, the client instructs the QS, contract administrator, to reject the VO recommendation by the M&E consultant. That means the client is asking the contract administrator to reject the VO recommendation by the M&E consultant. Okay, so the VO is issued by the client to change the method by the NSC against the tendering method. Okay, but then the M&E consultant rejects the view of the client and maintains his stand lah. Okay, so how? Sebab the, what you call that, the M&E consultant insists that this thing is still valid. So what should the M&E consultant do? Should he follow the client's directive? What can the QS do to solve this impasse? Explain. What remedies can the NSC do to claim the outstanding payment? So these are the suggested answers lah. Again, this one was more or less what I answered in the paper. those days. Okay, so what should the M&E consultant do? Should he follow the client directive? Macam client ni dia kata he just simply said, I'm going to reject your VO recommendation, but the M&E consultant rejects since he mentioned that the costing evaluation shows that the costing is fair, reasonable, and is contractually correct. So, suggested answer here, maintain the stand of the M&E consultant should maintain his stand as long as he can justify. Okay, that means he is contractually in compliance to his contract based on this. Contractually correct, nothing wrong with that. Then the costing is fair, reasonable. That means it's not too much or too less. Okay, that he has executed his due diligence based on reasonable skill of care. That means client cannot go and charge him under thought pun tak boleh, because he has shown that he is in compliance to the contract based on what he has done lah, as long as he can justify. Okay, that is what the M&E consultant should be doing lah. What can the QS do to solve this issue? Okay, QS ni, contract administrator ni, basically the best way is to act impartially, not to be at the side of the client or not to be at the side of the consultant. He has to be impartial, independent, and also verify both sides. Cannot simply go to one side. Check the claims by both the client and the M&E consultant. So once he has analyzed, if the claim by the consultant is correct, then he must accept the VO. He cannot simply follow the instruction from the client to reject the VO if the VO is in compliance to the contract or in compliance to the reasonable skill and care due diligence done by the consultant. Cannot. Okay. So the NSC ni pula kesian kat dia, he's not being paid. So what can he do to obtain the outstanding payment? Like I said, okay, the first thing that he can do is to check the contract. What is the base of payment? Okay, if the contract states that the payment needs to be done within the period of sekian-sekian or based on progress of 50%, 60%, and he's not being paid, then he has the right to argue based on contractual provision, number one, contractual provision, if the NSC can justify according to the contract. So that's the first remedy that he can try. But if there's no provision, direct provision in the contract, then he may go for adjudication based on the SIPA Act. So he's going for statutory punya remedy pula. Okay. That means he can get the adjudicator to be a middle party to be resolving this dispute lah. So the adjudicator will take the views from both sides, evaluate, and then decide based on the provisions of the SIPA punya Act. So this SIPA Act is very useful, macam saya cakap. Anything about payment, if you come across in your essay, you can use your SIPA punya example, and you can use your example based on the contract. These two are very easy punya examples that you guys can use. Contractual punya remedy, number two SIPA punya remedy. And if you have something else, macam the provision in the, what you call it, any bylaw punya violation, you can also put that as your another remedy. Okay. So these remedies are very important, can be applied everywhere when you are facing the payment punya issue. So I ada setengah jam je lagi nak finish the technical punya bits. Okay. So you have been doing the design for a project, the project is now term CCC. Okay. The client maintains that you have been doing your work unprofessionally, apa semua ni. Okay. After the DLP, without your knowledge, the client appoints another consultant to review the design. Okay. Does this act? Okay. So basically, if taking over the works fully, then the suggested answer, the regulation is not in compliance, so you will need a letter of release. If you just review the design without taking over, then you just need to inform the consultant without the letter of release. Okay, this is in compliance to circular number 8. Considering that the client has never disputed your claims based on contract previously, what remedies? These remedies ni, see, payment. Again, the two confirm answer that you can put is check provision in the contract. If there's nothing in the contract in detail, go for adjudication under SIPA Act. These two examples are universal and can be used mana-mana for payment punya questions. Can the client simply charge your design as being very conservative? Please substantiate your views. Cannot. Okay, cannot. So again, to check the scope in the contract, what are the scopes of your design? Okay, if you can show that you're doing it reasonably in compliance to MS ke UBBL ke and not simply apa dia kata very apa conservative kan. If you are demonstrating that your design is within the UBBL, within the MS requirements and all those other requirements, and you're doing it due diligently to comply to all the authority requirements, then the client doesn't have any ground for him to simply charge your design as being very conservative. Okay, again, cross referring to the contract. Okay, check your scope in the contract macam mana, what's supposed to be your scope. If suddenly macam saya cakap tadi, if you are having to design a furnace of 950 degrees C, memang client kata fit for purpose, then you have to comply to that. But if it's a general scope, designing the firefighting in accordance to bomba Malaysia requirements, if you can show that you are compliant, that's enough for you to counter the client. Okay, two, that's about the common punya paper. I think it's very heavy for you guys juga, quite a lot of content to be digested. So nak proceed ke nak break kejap? Half an hour to go. Bagi 1 minute punya breather lah, just for a quick breather, 1 minute. Okay, so we continue. So that covers the core common paper. Quite a lot of things, your CCC, GFORM, BM circulars, contract administration, CIPA lah, all those things, standard form of contract, schedule fees apa semua tu lah, all those listed in the BM website. So now we focus on the technical paper. So for our side, mechanical technical paper, important high level overview. Make sure that the mechanical candidate covers all disciplines. Okay, like I said, ACMV, fire protection, water, sanitary, LPG, lift and escalator. When I say ACMV, ACMV ni sampai to the extent of district cooling pun kena cover. Because I remember one of the questions for objective during my year, dia tanya pasal district cooling. I didn't answer properly that one lah. So you have the time, capacity, cover everything about ACMV if possible lah. District cooling, okay. And then your LPG. I remember last time I didn't baca sangat pasal LPG. Then a few questions towards the end of the objective paper kena. That one simply hentam lah. So make sure if you guys can cover the MS 930, 830 for the LPG systems, please cover also. It's very important lah. They can ask you what's the pressure here, pressure there, apa semua tu for the incoming system, distribution system for LPG. Okay. Relevant by law, UBBL. I'll show you kenapa the UBBL is very important soon. The relevant acts, Fire Services Act, Water Services Act, and etc. Malaysian standards, please cover them. Okay. Okay, design experience, design knowledge, including fundamentals. At least you know how to design a, not to say this PCE will ask you to design in 110% detail, tak. More or less, if you just have an idea on the schematics for the various systems, your potable water from the bulk meter to your tank, to your booster pump, ataupun kalau you ada suction tank, suction pump, to your roof tank, and then to the distribution points, at least you have some idea of the various basic fundamental design components. Okay, let's say your fire system from your town supply masuk to your hose reel tank, then from your hose reel tank to your hose reel points, what's the, I mean, doesn't need to be too detailed in design, at least the fundamentals are there. That will help you lah, because one thing that I noticed, the PCE subjective paper, they like to ask people to draw schematics of the various systems. Schematic lah, your water, firefighting systems. Okay, ACMV, I don't think they will ask you to dive in detail sangat on the schematics, especially on the water dengan firefighting lah. If you have the knowledge on the schematics high level, that will help you lah. So just bring in some schematics pun tak apa as your notes for your exam. Okay. Fundamentals, okay, design knowledge and including fundamentals. I remember one of the questions when I talk about fundamentals is for your mechanical ventilation, they test you objective question, they tested me on the fan law. Macam mana fan law? What are the equation? It relates to your fan speed, fan punya sizing. You just take that equation, masuk sekali dalam notes your fan laws. Because it can say if you change your diameter of the fan, what will be your fan power? What will be your fan flow rate? You need to know which one, kuasa 2, kuasa 3, all those things. So just take note your fan law sekali kalau you boleh. Okay, they may ask you to do basic calculations. Okay, like I said, the calculation will not be too detailed in this one, but they can ask you fundamental basic calculation that they can test you lah. Macam like I said, fan law calculation. If you change your fan blade size, what will be the new flow rate? What will be the new fan speed? You need to know that lah. Okay. And like I mentioned just now, operations and maintenance. Nanti you tengok nanti kita tengok the questions, the sample question for the technical punya side. Okay. Kenapa I cakap UBBL is very important? This is especially more on the firefighting side lah. So for UBBL, there's this schedule 10 for your firefighting punya provisions for different buildings. Schedule 3, which covers the ventilation requirements for different areas. Part 7, that means by law 230 something, yeah. The bylaws there will be covering the firefighting provisions for various items. So this will have the various requirements for different buildings. So let's say your schedule 10 kata, your building needs to have hose reels. Your building needs to have sprinklers. Okay, so the UBBL is only the skeleton of the thing. To dive deeper into details, if you say suddenly UBBL kata your building is going to need sprinkler hose reel, you need to dive into the standards. Your sprinkler MS1910, your hose reel MS1489, okay, your wet riser 1489, okay, fire pumps 2616, okay. So this one, I tell you, soalan dia quite favorite. They will tell you, please list down the firefighting requirements for a multi-story basement car park with above ground high rise that can come out. So you need to study the schedule 10 and then you just list down those things. And the subsequent question that they may ask you is, please draw a schematic or what, something like that, of the hose reel system, sprinkler system. They can ask you those things lah. So this is the base guideline. Going to the deeper details, you have to refer to the MS. These two complement one another. So like I said lah, for the UBBL, the 10th schedule, firefighting requirements for different buildings. The third schedule will cover the ventilation requirements. Ni part 7. Bylaw 225 to 253, these are the various firefighting requirements. Let's say fire lift. What's the minimum requirement for your fire lift? They can ask you that. What's the minimum height for your building to have wet riser? Okay, is in the bylaw. These other items here are more good to know, but probably you may not be tested here lah, because I've been involved in the various architectural studies also. So the 7th schedule is important. For the different buildings, what will be occupancy loading, travel distances, exit requirements, exit widths and everything. All of these lah. Okay. You just focus on these 3 lah, should be good. Okay. Okay, like I said lah, the UBBL picture there may not be too clear, but you can see here for the different buildings, what sort of extinguishing system, fire alarm system, emergency lighting systems that needs to be there for the various buildings lah. Shop, single story. So if your shop is less than 750 square meter, there may be there's no mandatory requirement for anything. Your size is getting more than 2,000 square meter, there will be the various requirements. Okay, all these things, these are the 10 schedule. Okay, You can see lah what is G, what is H, what is A, G, all of these things lah. Okay. So the 10 schedule is important for you to identify what needs to be there for each different building, and then from there you can work on the details lah. Okay. So I'm not going to go too deep in the details of this one. I'm just helping you guys here, trying to extract what is in the standards lah. Okay, so for hose reels, MS 1489, what will be the hose reel punya requirements for pipeline? Okay, what's the water supply requirement, provision of hose reels dekat mana? Okay, within 6 meter of each part of a room and all those things. If your hose reel is located, macam if you notice certain open areas, the hose reel may be higher than the usual low level hose reel. So what is the requirement for those high level hose reels? Okay, is in there 4.2.5 cakap. Nozzle retainer hose guide in the valve 900 mm above floor level. If the hose reels are positioned above head height, all of these requirements lah. Okay, what's the size? What's the water pump hose reel sizing? Minimum 2 bar entry at each hose reel. Standby pump requirement, what's your tank size, okay? For first hose reel, how much? For each subsequent hose reel, how much up to? Maximum of 9 meter cube, 9,000 liters, okay? What's the required? Can you combine the hose reel with the other domestic water tanks? You just go through these clauses here lah. I believe the organizer have sent you the notes here lah. So I'm not going through in detail sangat. Form inlets, okay? If you have, then the MS 1489 part 2 fire mains, okay? Landing valve location, what's the maximum operating pressure, what's the location of the wet fire mains, that means your wet risers and everything. Landing valve location, okay? Fire hydrants, okay, you can see the requirements here, maximum 90 meter from an entry to a building, maximum 90 meter apart from hydrant to hydrant, ada dalam standard ni. I'm just listing down for you guys to help you guys lah as a shortcut. Then your water supply for your wet water mains, okay, what's the capacity? 45 meter cube per hour. I remember this number inside one of the questions last time. Okay, what's your pump flow rate? Okay, water supply providing how many liter per minute at all times? How many standby pumps? Okay, what's your electric? Just have an idea of your feed to your pumps. Okay, should be dependent supply or the same supply with an auto changeover, all those things. Okay, minimum pressure requirement at the entry for each landing valve. Okay, all of these are in the standards. I'm just listing down for you guys. And your sprinkler system, this one is a very long standard. I think you guys know already. So I'm just listing down the sections which are related to what is OH1, OH4, pressure and flow requirement for the pre-calculated systems, water supplies, okay? What sort of tanks that you can use? I remember one of the questions tanya, what sort of tanks that you can use for your sprinkler system in the objective? So the answer is can be pump, suction tank, gravity tank, and reservoir. You can refer to 8.2.1. Okay, you can see what's the pre-calculated system requirement. Okay, water supply, pump characteristics and everything. Your annex, then your what? Range pipe and distribution pipe sizing. Ada table kan? I think you guys would have known the table. You can refer to table 30, table 31, which is in section 12.3.4, which tells you the range pipe sizing based on the number of sprinklers, then the distribution pipe sizing based on the number of sprinklers that it is fitting and all those things. Okay, you can refer to this. Annex B is important. For the different areas, there'll be different OH categories lah. You can see OH1 is OH building, OH2 is in which building, OH3, OH4 is in which building. They can ask you also for objective, building A, building B, building C, building D, which are correct? Building A, OH1, building B, OH2, building C, OH3, they can ask you those things, okay? MS2616, this one is what call it? 2015 standard. I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with this. Not to all of a standard, but this one is very important. Your fire pumps, there's a standard just for your fire pumps. And I remember, nanti kita tengok the questions, ada questions je pasal fire pumps relating to this MS2616. Okay, they can have the requirement for fire pumps, jockey pumps, and everything lah. So some schematics also inside this MS2616. And your MS1780, your smoke control. So I've listed down a few important points here. For your smoke exhaust, what will be your smoke height requirement? Okay, 2 meter high for powered extraction. What's your smoke zone for each smoke ventilation zone? 2,600 square meter limit for each zone. Length of smoke zone 60 meters. Okay, what's your velocity limit for your replacement air? Then the various applications. Okay, as for your smoke exhaust. Okay, now MS1525, something separate. This is more towards your energy efficiency requirements. Not to say mandatory requirements, but if your client specify that you must design your buildings in accordance to MS1525, these are the items that you can see lah. More to HVAC, ACMV systems lah. Okay. Here you can see the various ACMV requirements. Okay. What's the COP requirement for your chill water system, for your VRF systems, split systems. You can see those things in the tables, various tables inside the MS1525. Okay, all of those things lah. And also for ACMV, you guys should be referring as well to ASHRAE 62.1, ASHRAE 90 if I'm not mistaken for your ACMV. Okay, apart from this MS1525. And next one, your span requirement. Okay, this span requirements here, there are many sections. So you take note which one is civil punya section, which one is mechanical punya section. So I've identified for you guys. Refer to part C for the internal plumbing side lah. Okay. For plumbing systems, these are part C here. This is for your internal buildings lah. So you can see from this part C there's an important table, the very important table on the water requirement, water demand for the different buildings. You can see that in tables C4, C5, and C6. Okay. Water demand based on types of fittings in table C7. You guys can see them. The various requirements lah, supply pressure, schematics. See figure C1 and C2 I open last, but this one is sedap sikit kalau baca. Do I have it here or do I not have it here? Okay, nice. So just open lah. Okay. But if you open part B, part A, they are more to civil, external water reticulation. So don't focus too much on that. So this one is important, part C. You see pipe materials for different areas. Okay, take note. This is the very important one. I remember I kena this question objective last time. What's the minimum storage capacity for the different buildings? Okay, for your residential, for industry, hospital, airport, and the other buildings lah. So you can see lah how many liters per day, how many per person, per square meter, or per unit. Okay, it depends lah. Okay, you can see those requirements. So if you don't have any population count, macam certain buildings ni require per person kan. So you can estimate the water demand based on table C7, based on the types of fittings. How many water closet? If you have 20 water closets, so you multiply by 20, then you can get the total water demand based on these items here. Okay. Then the water storage tank requirement, I'll skip through the, then the supply pressure, make sure, take note, these are the various residual pressures required for landed premises. What's the maximum pressure in a piping system? Shall not be more than 30 meter head. Otherwise, to use PRV, pressure reducing valve to lower water pressure. For multi-story high-rise buildings, these are the minimum pressure requirements for the different areas. For your flush valve, water fixtures, non-flush valve, parcel meters, these are the pressure requirements. They may ask you again, the 30 meter head requirement is applicable here. Otherwise, you may use a PRV to lower water pressures. Okay, pumping system, hot water system. I'll just skip all of this. You just go through. Some simple schematic like this can help you lah. Figure C1, okay, for typical landed residential premises. Figure C2 for your hotel, for example, for your high rise, you can also use this thing, something like this. Okay, just have this in your back pocket lah. Kalau they suddenly ask you to draw schematics, they can ask you to draw. Okay. Part C and part D. Okay, part C tadi internal plumbing, part D for your pump station. Okay, pump station. That means pumping stations is under mechanical also. So your pumping station, if suddenly they ask you, they can ask you lah. Okay, so these are the topics related to pumping stations. So more or less there lah. So we've covered the various items here. I'm not going to go through one by one lah. So you guys can go through. I'm helping you guys just listing down the important points. So you guys maybe can shortcut sikit lah. So some sample questions for mechanical. So which of the following is not applicable for active fire designs? 1472, 1780, 1910, 1525. Guide to fire protection in Malaysia. So the answer will be B. Okay, 1472 is for pressurization systems, your lobby pressurization, your staircase pressurization, and all those things. 1780 is your smoke exhaust. 1910 is your sprinkler. Guide to fire protection is your bomber red book. Fire lifts are required for buildings where the topmost occupied floor is. They can ask you this. So you guys have the answer in bylaw 243. Anything above 18.5 meter will require fire lifts. Okay, you can refer to the bylaw there. In HVAC system, COP is defined as. So for those who have been doing ACMV, I think no issues here lah. Okay. Basic HVAC knowledge lah. This one better don't get wrong lah. This one kira bonus question lah. Cooling capacity over electrical power, your COP. Okay, the larger COP you have, the more efficient your aircon is. Okay. Okay, now essay. Okay. In a commission system, you find a number of issues. Please explain the reason and how would you instruct your contractor to resolve or minimize these issues. Number one, some areas are too cold, some areas are too hot. Macam mana nak resolve? Number two, some rooms are stuffy and very humid. Number three, you can hear noise from the HU even though you're distance away from the HU room. Number four, you are besides the HU room. You can feel that the false ceiling at your room is vibrating. So benda-benda ni here, like I said, is more related to your operation and maintenance. So if you have some experience there, it can help you lah. So some areas are too hot, some areas are too hot. Again, these are the suggested answers. Okay, so if you have any better answers, you can also give them. So what's the causing is basically some areas are too cold, some areas are too hot. One possible cause is would be the balancing of the water side and air side are not resolved. When I say balancing here, that means in your chill water plant, you'll be having different flow rates at different branches, okay, based on the cooling capacity requirement for your AHU. So that's where you're gonna need to have some sort of balancing punya valve at your water side to ensure the correct flow rates are coming into the branches for your AHU. And your air side pula, from your AHU, there's the possibility that your AHU is serving, let's say, 2 or 3 different rooms. Okay, so each room may have different air punya requirement to serve the rooms based on the sizing, based on the heat loads and everything. So you don't have any balancing punya damper, that's an issue lah. If let's say your room is scattered, some are near to your AHU, some are not near to your AHU. If you don't have any balancing dampers, you may have an issue of your air flowing too much to your rooms which are very near to your AHU. So your balancing dampers can help you to balance the flow rates to ensure that only the required flow rates are being distributed into each room. Okay, so that's where I'm getting from lah. If you have any better answers, just let me know lah. So solution, to install volume control damper for air side, to check the chill water flow rate for the branches and adjust the valves, or to install pressure independent balancing control valves to auto adjust the flow lah. So this is my proposed answer lah. Some may have better answers than me. No worries, you guys can propose. Next one, some rooms are stuffy and very humid. So what's the cause for it? So my answer would be insufficient relative humidity control or monitoring, improper fresh air control. Okay, sebab your AHU, okay, there's the fresh air incoming, at the same time there will be your return air recirculation. So if we depend too highly on the return air circulation, your, what you call that, your RH, all those things, your O2 oxygen, your oxygen may reduce, your CO2 may increase too much, okay, then your RH may increase too much as well. So the fresh air, if it's not regulated properly, then it won't be good lah. It's good to introduce fresh air at certain intervals as well for your AHU system. My proposal lah here. So the cause would be insufficient relative humidity control or monitoring, improper fresh air control. So solution, to install RH monitoring, to introduce controls on how to regulate the fresh air control lah. If let's say your fresh air, if let's say your RH is increasing to 70, 80%, then you can trigger the fresh air damper to be open. That's one way of doing it lah. Okay, something like that. Control mechanism. Okay. This one senang. This one very senang. You can hear noise from the AHU even though you are distance from the AHU room. My answer is simply insufficient noise attenuation lah. Not enough silencer ke, not enough internal light, duct lining or whatever. So the solution is to ensure sufficient noise attenuation. That's it. Simple. Then the what? Besides the AHU room, the false ceiling. So this one is vibration issue. So my answer is very simple. Suggested answer. Don't have any sufficient vibration isolation. Spring isolator tak ada, neoprene pad tak ada. Solution, to ensure sufficient vibration isolation. That's it. Like I said, certain questions they need to be answered in detail. Certain questions are being able to be answered very simple. Okay, depends on the question lah. Okay, these are my suggested answers. I remember putting these answers in the paper. I don't know whether I got full mark or not because I never got back my questions last time. This is the sample of firefighting punya questions. Okay, shopping mall. So you have 10,000 square meter area with atrium, 4 stories high, floor to soffit height 4.5 meter. So they have 2 levels of basement car park. So list down the active firefighting equipment that you will test and commission for this building. Macam I cakap tadi, you refer, this is a shopping mall, so you can refer to UBBL schedule 10, item 5, shop. Okay, once you have all of these requirements, then you can go to the specifics lah. You have your MS 1780 for smoke, 1472 for pressurization, then whatever else needed lah, hose reel, fire alarm, genset, smoke exhaust, all of these things. Okay, refer to UBBL and also standard practices, then you go to the standards for more details. Sprinklers question. Okay, so sprinkler system has been designed according to the following: 1 controller panel serving and providing power to sprinkler duty and standby pump, another panel for jockey pump. Sprinkler pumps are the end suction pump type. Jockey pump is the vertical multi-stage pump type. K factor for sprinkler system in the pump room is 80 meter. Controllers located in another room from the fire pump room 6 meter away. List down any issues with the current design. What associated equipment should be there at the suction and discharge side of the pump? Can butterfly valves be used as isolation valves for the sprinkler system? Okay. My answer here, if you guys have any better answer, we can put them. My answer would be referring to MS 1910, controllers shall be in the same compartment of the pump. Okay, so basically here, controllers are being placed in another room from the fire pump rooms. So if you refer to MS 1910, the controller shall be in the same compartment of the pump. Okay, What associated equipment should be there at the suction and discharge side of the pump? Sekejap, I open. This one is more better if we can have the photo for this. 2616 ni penting because they have various apa nama. So you can see the 2616 here. So what's the question? What associated equipment should be there at the suction and discharge side of the pump? MS2616. So you have all of these things here. This is your pump. This is your before the pump, upstream of the pump. Here are the downstream of the pump. So if you have this schematic, it's a matter of just listing down, or maybe we can just sketch it on the answer paper. That's it. Free mark for you already for this question. For the fire pump, you have electric motor driven, you have diesel engine powered pump. Okay, you have diesel engine and electric motor driven dual pump set. All of these things here, if you have, you can just use them. Okay, just draw it exactly the same or just list down one by one. See, all of these individual components is basically free marks for you already. Can butterfly valves be used as isolation valves for the sprinkler system? So for MS 1910 is stated can, but shall be of the gear operated type. Stop valves may not be installed downstream of the control valve set, except as specified in the standards. That's one thing for the downstream, but for the MS 2616 butterfly valve shall not be installed on the inlet side. Okay, valves within 15D diameter of the pump inlet shall not be of the butterfly valve type. Again, it refers back to 2616. Quite important lah this MS 2616. So you have two references here at sini. Okay. This one, another one. UBBL ataupun fire question. Service apartment 30 stories linked to 2 stories of car park at the basement. Sprinkler point burst at the car park due to a fire incident. Explain the flow of the active firefighting system in operation for this case. So for this one again, same procedure. Identify the firefighting provisions based on UBBL Schedule 10. Okay, MS 1780 for smoke exhaust, 1472 for pressurization. That's one part of the question. Another part of the question is explain the flow of the active firefighting system in operation. Okay, maybe some sort of operation and maintenance punya knowledge jugalah. Okay, the principle of firefighting punya operations. So what happens here? The sprinkler point burst at the car park, then what happens? Okay, so from my understanding, this will be the answer. The sprinkler point burst. So that means the water pressure in the sprinkler piping system drops. So your sprinkler pumps is actuated via the pressure switches. Then a signal is sent back to the fire alarm panel. Okay. Then once the fire alarm panel gets the system, the fire alarm system sends the signal to the various items lah, smoke exhaust, pressurization panels, aircon panels to shut the aircon, PA system, roller shutter, and then all the aircons will be shut, smoke exhaust fan running, smoke pressurization fan running, PA system will sound, roller shutters will close. This is my proposed answer based on the understanding lah. So it's not too complex, but you need some understanding on this one lah, how they operate. From the start point, from the sprinkler point bursting, sending back to a fire alarm panel, corresponding equipment will close/open lah. Something like that. Fire pump question. What is circulation relief valve? Please show the location via a sketch for the fire pump. Again, this is MS 2616. Very important kalau boleh dapat 2616. To provide sufficient flow to protect the pump from overheating and recirculation damage when operating with no or low discharge. Provision shall be made for discharge to waste. That means dia pergi ke drain lah for this one. You can see the MS 2616 here. The circulation relief valve is going to drain basically. Okay. Here dekat sini. Okay, you can open the standard for the answer lah. Okay. See? Senang. Lastly, water question. Architect has allowed water tanks to only be at the ground level due to aesthetics. How do you design the cold water system? Okay. Sanitary, each floor have bathrooms at the same area. Advise how you would design the sanitary stack for the bathrooms at ground floor and first floor. Draw a schematic. Okay, schematic. So how do you design the cold water system? First, you need to identify what sort of requirements that you need to have from span 3.5J. See ya, the soalan dia. Architect has allowed water tanks to only be at the ground level. Okay, so you see 3.5J ni. Okay, for pumping design, this is 3.5 span requirement pumping system. J, for pumping designs using a pressurized system and where all of the storage of water is provided at the ground level storage system, the following shall apply. Number one, the number of pumps shall be 100% of the duty pumps. Number two, pumping shall be variable speed drive. Number three, power supply shall be tapped from TMB backed up by a standby generator. So basically, that's the requirement that you'll be having. So what you can do, you can just ambil the what? Just use this one, the C2 here. Okay, then just apply accordingly lah. So yeah, so this one tak boleh pakai, this one cannot be on the roof lah. Your tank will all need to be on the ground level. This one tak boleh pakai because this one is on the roof. So you adjust accordingly lah. Okay. Sanitary. So basically for sanitary ni senang. Draw schematic is a simple schematic, don't need to be too detailed. I didn't put any pipe sizes there pun actually. So all level, ground level sanitary fittings connect directly to the first manhole. All your first floor sanitary fittings connect to the main downpipe stack. Then the stack will go down to the first manhole. That's it. Itu je. Simple, nothing much. You need to schematic. Okay, so I think we've covered the things here lah for the technical paper, and then the common paper lah. I think it's a very, very detailed discussion that we'll be having today. So, yep, so I guess we have passed the time requirement here. So let me hand back to the organizer if they want to proceed with the subsequent session.
Thank you, IR Muhammad Kamal. If there is any question from the participants, you can write it in the chat box. And IR Muhammad Kamal, there's two question in the chat box. You can
Okay.
answer.
Yeah. Right. Binder tu tak semestinya combine, tak ada, betul-betul. Dua lubang tu pun dah okay, correct. As long as dia terikat sama-sama. Okay. Don't stapler tak payah sikit. So dua lubang pun boleh, tak ada issue. Then the what? The statistics of passing rate. Alamak, I kena cari slide lain. I got 10 to 20% passing rate if I recall correctly lah. Unless Dr. Arkam ada sini lah to advise us how much is the passing rate. From what I've been hearing from BEM when I was attending one of their sessions, 10% to 20% maximum lah. Maximum 20%, 10% lah the passing rate every year. That's what I can recall lah correctly. How much is required to answer to score in the exam for each question? Okay, macam I cakap tadi, so passing mark for each paper is 50%. Okay, 50%. Paper 1, common paper 50%, paper 2 common paper 50%, paper 1 technical paper 50%, paper 2 technical paper 50%. It means to pass the exam in one sitting, you must score at least 50% for each paper. Dia tak boleh macam ni tau. They cannot paper 1 100%, paper 2 30%, average tak ada. It's not like that. Minimum 50% for each. Okay. So to answer that question just now, for objective clear lah, very easy lah, per question lah. For essay, you can see one thing that I didn't put in the notes here is how many marks allocated for each question here. Diorang boleh come to you, let's say 5 marks ke 10 marks ke, all those things. They can do it. Depends on the paper lah. We don't ingat lah. We don't remember how many marks per question lah. But again, like I said, you punya time to answer for essay is tak banyak tau. Your timing is not that extensive. So you need to plan your time accordingly. If the answer is direct answer macam ni, paper 2 question C. Which section of SDBA Street Drainage Building Act and Registration of Engineers Regulations have been violated? This one don't go pusing-pusing, just answer directly. That's it. Close. Tak payah nak pusing-pusing. You answer already. Okay. Macam here, you need to identify lah what is the scope of the local authority based on the Street Drainage and Building Act apa semua. What happens if the CCC is issued without the G form? That one you need to know lah. That one you need to explain lah. But macam ni, this one direct. Some direct answer, you answer direct only. Okay. Macam here, all of these are more to explaining lah. Okay. Macam here, explaining what is the M&E consultant should be doing. What should the QS contract administrator be doing? Can I explain lah. Macam here, remedies. You just provide 2 answers. Contractual punya provisions, if there's anything in the contract. If there's nothing, go to adjudication, SIPA Act, ataupun if there's any other statutory requirements that you need to answer. That's it. Don't pusing-pusing, just directly answer je. Macam for technical macam for technical, these suggested answers basically, if I remember correctly, I give these answers to the answer lah. But again, I don't know how full mark ke tak full mark I did get lah, because I didn't get the paper back lah. Okay, so answering directly, cause, what is the cause of this issue? What's the solution? That's it. Don't pusing-pusing. What's the cause? What's the solution? And why you doing it? Dah, jangan pusing sangat. Okay. Macam here. See? This one. Okay, this one there's a difference between this question and this question. Okay, so this one, nampak you see this question here, it is giving you the building, what's the size, what's the apa semua ni. List down the active firefighting, list down that you will test and commission. So here, it's mainly on listing down only. Based on your BBL, based on your MS, what should be there in your building. List down saja. Don't go and goreng banyak-banyak. Just list down based on your BBL, these are the requirements. Based on MS 1780, this will be the smoke exhaust requirements for basement, for overground, for atrium apa semua tu. Sprinkler lah, hose reel lah apa semua. Then list down. Macam tadi here, this one is not only listing down now. This one, number 1, you explain the flow. Okay, first before you list down the flow, you need to identify first what is there. Baru you boleh list down the flow. Betul tak? So from here, the question here is more, you kena baca more between the lines here. Before you identify the flow of the firefighting system here, you need to firstly identify based on your BBL, MS, and from there, once you identify, then you can explain the flow of the things lah accordingly. So the idea here is, macam circulation relief valve, what is it? Please show the location. So what is it? Jawab, what's the purpose? And then just draw the sketch based on this. Mana lah the schematic tadi. That's it. Don't go too much on this one. So in summary, try to answer directly lah. If you need to explain, you explain lah. That's it lah. Okay, ada lagi tak? what is the next action to be taken if the first attempt of exam is failed. Okay, so if you fail the first attempt, yeah, you can take the next what you call that, you can take the next year punya exam, no worries on that one. Okay, dia, if you fail both papers, you can retake either both next year, or you can choose to take only one. Maybe you focus one next year, the other one the following year, tak ada masalah. If you pass one paper, you fail one paper, okay, the issue here is you will only need to take the paper that you failed the next year. Yang pass tu you don't need to take until a maximum of 3 years. Let's say you pass your common paper this year, you fail your technical paper this year. Next year you only need to take your technical paper sahaja. Okay, then you have a grace period of 3 years for your paper yang common pass tu. So after 3 years you tak lepas lagi the technical paper, that's when you need to retake both papers again. Okay, that's the concept lah for PCE. And then can the PCE question be comprehensive calculation? No, it's not too comprehensive, but there will be fundamental sikit-sikit. Macam I cakap tadi, the ACMV tu, they can ask you fan law lah. Fan A, what's the blade sizing? What's the fan speed? What's the fan power, fan flow rate? Then they tanya you, if you change the fan blade to this size, what's the fan power required? What's the fan speed? Then you need to use your fan law calculation. That's it, something like that. Or water demand requirement, you need to check the table apa semua. If let's say they macam span ni kan, okay, they can tell you, they can ask you something like this lah, okay. Not too detailed, okay, but if let's say they give you a building has 20 WC, 20 sinks, 20 urinal. So what's the water demand requirement? That's it. They takkan ask you because your time is limited. They won't ask you detail lah. Cooling load ni banyak tau. Is your equipment loading, you need to identify. Then you need to mind your solar loading lagi. All your ratio of the window over the wall apa semua tu kan. Then your CLTD, all those things banyak. They won't go too deep into that, but they may ask you basic questions lah, basic calculations. They won't ask you to be too detailed lah for this one, for calculation. Yeah, timing tak banyak. They won't dera you that lah. But you need to know lah. But they won't go deep like that lah. Basic calculation lah for that. Firefighting ke apa semua. But firefighting nak tak apa, you just refer to your standard lah. That's it. Yeah. I think I finished the question. Based on this exam system, is it possible that I avoid an entire system question and still achieve above 50%? Okay. So basically, for this one, to answer that, for essay, for essay, there's a possibility of doing it. Macam for me, essay, I remember there's a question on lift and escalator for one of the essay questions. I totally elak that question lah. Okay, I totally elak the question because you need to calculate the movement of people lah, apa semua dalam lift tu, which I'm not really that familiar at that time. Okay, so I open back the formats. Okay, so again, so paper 1 objective, 40 questions, answer all for common paper and technical paper. For part B, for paper 2 subjective paper, choose 3, answer 5 questions. Okay, for subjective paper, you can escape that if the question pecah-pecah according to the different discipline lah. Suddenly one essay got LPG, one essay got lift escalator. Okay, you can skip without choosing that one lah. But if objective, then you will be losing marks there lah kat situ, or you hentam lah. Okay, sekejap, I'm trying to see. I tak ingat because I remember BM was having the to answer that question is kalau LPG LPG won't be too much of that in the exam lah. But ACMV, I believe there will be many ACMV questions. That one susah sikit lah. You want to avoid all the ACA for objective paper. For technical, you may still be able to lari yet. But then the objective, you will not be able to lari much from that questions lah. The other percentage, I cannot remember how many percentage, but ACMV is one of the core items that they'll ask you in the exam. High percentage of questions. Yeah, so for objective paper cannot run lah, that one. Okay, for ACMV especially like LPG, 2 or 3 questions. Belakang-belakang. ACMV is the main bulk of the question juga lah for the objective. For subjective, you may escape lah. Because you can choose 3 out of 5. Objective cannot choose.
Okay, if there's no other questions, so that concludes today's webinar session of BEM Professional Competency Examination. I would like to express my gratitude to IR Muhammad Kamal Haziq for the useful and interesting sharing in the topic of PCE for Mechanical PE. For your information, we will have a delay on the process to issue certificate BEM PCE as we are still waiting for the official letter from MBOT. For a soft reminder, a thank you email and a feedback form will be sent to the participant through email after the webinar session ends. It is highly appreciated that all participants send us your feedback about the webinar. I will also thank our participants for joining today's webinar. We hope to see you at the next webinar session. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you. Assalamualaikum and have a nice day.
Thank you.